Hola from Austin. We are broadcasting live from the Consensus Conference. I'm Ritzy P, and welcome to The Get Down.
And I'm Cleve Mesidor. Thank you for joining us for this special episode. Well, we actually just came from a special event at Consensus. We had a meet and greet for butterscotch, and it was amazing. We had people come through. We had
Yes.
breakfast tacos and mojitos.
Mimosas.
Yeah. I had
Same.
I had a few too many. No, breakfast tacos and mimosas. Next year we'll do mojitos.
Right, that would be
Yes.
delicious. Yes. So we're getting great feedback about the live conversation with Rashawn Colbert that you had yesterday from DYDX yesterday.
Oh my God, it was amazing. Rashawn is a former staffer. He worked for Senator Booker, and now, as you mentioned, he works for DYDX Trading, and he's in the DeFi space. So we had a wonderful conversation about his transition from policy to the DeFi space. So it was amazing. And so it was the first live event we did from Consensus. So excited about this one, the next one, us doing this live just to more talk about butterscotch.
Love that. So let's talk about how things are going since, how things have been going since the launch of Butterscotch back in March.
Yeah. It's been about 2 months now. And it's amazing, actually. So we've published. So Butterscotch, for the audience, Butterscotch includes a newsletter, the podcast, and we'll be doing live events. So the first newsletter was published on March 17th. We've just done our 12th newsletter, and the podcast was just launched this week. And we've broadcast about 5-6 episodes, including these live ones. And then we'll be doing live events for Butterscotch as well. And so our first big one, in addition to the meet and greet we did here in Austin during Consensus, but our first big one will be during the DNC convention. We are focused on policy, not politics, but we know the policy conversation is really a regulatory one, but also one where elected officials are just getting to weigh in on. So we're planning an event in Chicago during the DNC convention to talk about these issues and see where members are thinking. So, excited about, Butterscotch. The feedback about the podcast, I know you've heard from people, has been
Yes.
great. And then the newsletter, we're getting tremendous feedback. And it's just such a joy to really focus on inclusion stories in Web3 and DeFi. Even people who work in the space reached out to me and said, oh my God, I'm in my bubble all the time. I didn't know all of this was happening.
Right. Well, I'm super thrilled. Thank you for asking me for hosting Butterscotch Media's podcast, The Get Down. And we've had such, a great lineup of guests for our inaugural episodes.
Oh my God. Yes, it has been. So, we kicked off the first episode. You interviewed Judy Mam from
Fantastic.
Data.art.
Oh, yeah. So that was amazing to kick it off. There was so much that I didn't even know, and I've been in this space since 2021, and there was a lot of firsts that I don't think, as we talked about in the episode, that she doesn't get recognition for.
Yeah. And Data is actually commemorating its 10th anniversary. So, they've had a footprint. For the audience, definitely make sure you check out that episode. It's our inaugural episode with Judy Mam, one of the co-founders of Data, and you can find them Data.art. But it's a great conversation about the impact that they've had over the years and how they've really fueled a lot of the growth we've seen across the NFT space.
Yes.
Yeah. And then we had the US CEO of eToro, Lule.
Yes.
I did that interview, and she's amazing. eToro is a platform where, that has expanded access to investment to retail investors. So we actually had a conversation about retail investors and the risks that they're facing and their approach. And one of the things that we talked about, how traditionally the retail investor was wealthy, right? Was upper middle class, right? It was limited to a group. And right now the data shows the average middle class, the modern day retail investor is even lower lower income. So when you think
Right.
about middle income people, a little lower than that. So the democratization, I hate that word,
Hard to say.
of crypto is happening, and Lule really breaks it down. There's been a lot of research.
Yeah. So fantastic inaugural episodes. Definitely make sure to subscribe so that
Yeah.
you're always in the know of what's coming up next.
Yeah, and then oh my God, we didn't talk about Elena Gerald from Blockchain
Right.
Latinx.
Yes.
Yes,
No, that
her
was a great
episode.
episode. Yeah. Just, finding out the history. She's been in this space for such a long time and creating such an inclusive, we talked about safe space.
Yes.
In a place that could maybe sometimes be overwhelming, but
Yeah.
she made it a space. They weathered the storm of the different iterations and evolution of the space. And I love what she's bringing to the table.
Yeah, and I love how she put it because she started Blockchain Latinx in 2018, and she was sharing with you how the space has grown and how she loves the different communities that have been growing and where they're at. A lot of people, they tend to want to see their growth, and she was really talking about it's beautiful to see the various communities grow so that people can have increased access.
Yes, and I think that that's what the Get Down and Butterscotch Media is all about, is giving light and amplifying these diverse voices, but also seeing how we're working together to help each other out in this space, because, if someone wins, we all win.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things I love about, being at Consensus, right? I know this is your first Consensus.
Yes.
I was telling with Rashawn yesterday, I've been coming since 2018 when it was still in New York City.
Oh, wow.
And so, I haven't missed one, but I would love your perspective about, you being a newbie.
Yes. Well, I've heard so many amazing things about it, especially last year. I had a lot of friends that attended, so I was super excited. Yesterday, I was only here for the latter half, but I saw some amazing panels. One where UNICEF talked
Yeah.
about investing in emerging Web3 markets for social good, which is right up my alley. And so I'm glad that I made that. And so far, it's been such a great experience. Today is day 2, and I'm excited to see, what's in store.
Oh my God. Well, I actually spoke on a panel yesterday. It was a town hall on digital identity rights. Right? Something that people don't think about. When you look at the evolution of fintechs and the internet, we are more and more, on some type of digital platform, right? And the issue is most people don't own their data. Somebody else owns it, is selling it, is marketing it, right? So during the panel, we talked about what are the rights that we should be given to people. They should not be considered consumers, but digital citizens, right? And then what are those rights that we want to make sure that they have? So it's a great conversation, and I definitely would love to have somebody on the podcast in the coming months explore that conversation, especially for inclusive communities.
Right.
Communities of color, especially Black, Latino, Indigenous communities, we're consumers of social media, but we're not, where our data and information is being used, and having some type of bill of rights that says that somebody has to check with us before they share all this, or there's a way that we can protect it, is the prospects are amazing. So
Right.
I was on that panel with Michael Casey and others, and so it was great. But it has been wonderful to meet people, tell them more about Butterscotch Media, talk about the reason we do this is really to put a spotlight on the many dynamic inclusion stories that exist. We talk about them, in Choose, our newsletter. We spotlight people during the podcast, so it's amazing.
Yes. So anything else that we want to discuss about Consensus and our experience?
Oh my God. Well, you know what? I will say that, other than, I keep saying this, our meetup this morning was amazing. And, as we've just launched Butterscotch, getting people to learn more about it. But I also think that, there's so many different communities within within consensus that we can connect with. So, I definitely encourage people who haven't attended to, consider attending in Austin next year. But find your tribe before you do to make sure you get the most out of it,
Yes.
right? And, it's been great to introduce you as my, as our host for the Get Down, and also just to do this in person, do a show in person. So I do want to say thank you for saying yes and answering the
Thanks.
call. Yeah, and I would love for our audience to learn a bit more about you, because you are a award-winning podcaster, but you have a deep footprint in Web3. So tell us about your podcast, Word to Your Mama, and also Hola Metaverso, all of the stuff.
All the things. Well, thank you so much, Cleve, for including me to be a part of this. I think it's kind of historic. Would you not say that it's historic, that it's Butterscotch Media and what you guys are showcasing in this space? So I am the founder of Ritzy P and consultancy at the intersection of creative innovation, emerging tech, and community impact. And with Hola Metaverso, a partner in that, and we create and curate experiences in the United States and in Latin America that embrace community building, collaboration, and empathy, and just meeting people where they're at. We want more people to access and use this technology, and there's so many different use cases. And being in that community for the past couple of years and creating these spaces and talking to people and being holders of these different projects, I've been on the ground seeing the impact that this technology, emerging tech, has on the community. Also, just last year, we were the first group to present at the United Nations General Assembly 78th Science Summit on Web3.
Wow.
We were all women, and 70% of us were Latinas from all around the world. And I presented specifically a solo presentation on the importance of diversity and inclusion in Web3. As you know, and I think we all aligned that the first internet didn't have us in mind. We weren't even a thought. It wasn't created by us. It wasn't for us. A little bit of like the FUBU mentality and bringing it back to hip hop and the culture. But, now we have an opportunity to really change what's being made. And, I always say this all the time is the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And that can't happen anymore. So we're here to, as a group, as a community, to help each other to change, how everything is built. Be the builders, be the creators, have, different organizations helping each other out so that we can build on a global scale.
Awesome. Well, I love your podcast too. So tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so I have a podcast called Word to Your Mama. It's also an homage to hip hop, and it amplifies diverse voices because I come from the music industry, the art, and now Web3 emerging tech. But I'm going to have a new one that's coming out that is I think a companion piece to the Get Down, where this focuses more on industry trends and policy. Emerging Tech Journeys is amplifying voices of the folks that are building and their why and what's the heart and the passion behind it, so that those that are not in Web3 can see themselves, hear themselves, and see that everything is possible and why it's important that we are building in this space and how it contributes to themselves so they can kind of see themselves and maybe spark and inspire more people to enter the space, because I think ultimately that's the goal that we have. That we share.
Absolutely. So Emerging Tech Journeys.
Yes, and that's going to be launching later this year, but currently it's Word to Your Mama, and I'm asking you live so you can say yes. Would love to have you on both, because I want to hear more on, your story. I think people need to hear that, how your evolution came into this space and everything that you're doing, because I think I can speak for a lot of us. We're super grateful.
Oh my God. Well, there's so many amazing leaders across Web3 and DeFi, and the inclusion stories are not being told. They're not being spotlighted. So the more platforms we can create to get it out there, because even, as you know, Butterscotch Media is anchored in news. We focus on policy, as you just said,
Right.
industry trends, and market research. And a big part of that is, the people driving policy. When you look at what they call the Congressional Tri-Caucus, the Black Caucus, Hispanic Caucus, and Asian Pacific American Caucus, this is a concern for them, right? They don't want, to push forth another industry in this time of crypto bros, right?
Right.
They want to hear and see the stories about their constituents, the diverse, vibrant, founders, and creating more platforms. That's what Butterscotch is doing. Even that's what you've been doing with your platform as well. So to the audience there, people don't realize that Black and Latino communities are the earliest and largest adopters of cryptocurrency, but we actually are the communities that don't have a lot of access to resources. Right. We're here at Consensus, and we have access to all of these materials. And I'm in DC, and in DC, so many resources. You're in California, Ritzy, and there are so many resources there. But what about the person in Detroit, right? What about the person in El Paso? Because we know they're holding it, and they should have access to conferences that are free and accessible, so that they can talk to trusted resources and get access to resources. So excited about what you're building and what's coming.
Thank you. And speaking of politics, you have a deep bent in politics. So can you tell us a little bit more about that journey?
Oh my God, wow, this journey. I actually published a book called The Clevolution, My Quest for Justice in Politics and Crypto, because that has been the journey that took me here. I have a policy background. I served in the Obama administration, worked in Congress. I also went to Howard for grad school. I'm an AKA, so skiwi to all my swords out there. Right, so social justice and equity has always been part of my DNA. I even ran for political office in DC. I ran for city council in 2007. So it's really in my DNA. But when at some point I became disillusioned. And ironic for a lot of people listening, it was actually during the Obama administration. We elected the first Black president, right? He was all about change. And I served in that administration, that historic administration. And my big takeaway was government was not going to change.
Right.
And we weren't going to make the changes we needed to in government. And if we couldn't do it during a Black president, then it's never going to happen. So I realized that I needed to find other outlets. And as God would have it, it was during the Obama administration in 2013 that I first learned about Bitcoin. A friend had a Bitcoin project and told me about it. And then in 2015, I saw the movie Dope. If you're out there, you haven't seen Dope,
I love that
definitely go see it. Hilarious. But ironically, I was just like, oh, that's what because in Dope, Bitcoin was actually a character of the movie. It wasn't just central to the plot. It was... And so once I went down the rabbit hole. And so when I became disillusioned with politics and I was just like, I can't make the change I need here, my God, decentralization was my salvation. Right? It was, oh my God, we're creating. So for me, Bitcoin was my North Star, not because it was a store of value, no, because it was about building a system where everybody was accessible to it, right? Where anybody, whether you're homeless or you just came out of prison, you could buy Bitcoin and change your life. And so for me, the journey into crypto, started working in crypto full time in 2017, and have been focused on equity and inclusion, and then this year launching Butterscotch Media to tell those stories, because I actually started my career at CNN's Washington Bureau. I'm currently a Forbes contributor. So, storytelling is very central to me. So it's been, this whole, how do I make a change? And I'm going to share something that's a little, growing up, maybe not growing up, like in my 20s, I was obsessed with the Black Panther movement. I was obsessed with that era, because the Black Panther movement was that era of also Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. There was so much, and I was so jealous that, I will never have that opportunity to birth something, to create something new. And when crypto came along, it was just like, we are birthing something, and it is a revolution, and it is a movement. And I know a lot of people in crypto are really focused on store value, the price of Bitcoin, taking it to the moon. That's fine, but there's enough of us that are changing the system, increasing access, and seeing that happen, and that is so exciting to me. So
yes, I agree. Yeah. It's the revolution. We're part of a new revolution. I think that's why we're so passionate. My husband's like, I haven't seen you this passionate in years. And I was like, yeah, that's what it's about. And I want to connect with other people, such as yourself, that we're all at that level of passion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I first came to this space, the person who told me, it was Sinclair Skinner that actually first told me about, crypto, and then opened this whole world of, Black, Latino, Indigenous leaders who were open and like, what do you need? Each one teach one. And I want to make sure today, most people getting into crypto today, they don't have the access of taking their time to learn. They're driven by FOMO. There's so much noise. They don't have to break through. So we have to create more access points for them to see people who have similar backgrounds to them, that they can actually have content that is not self-serving, that is not intended to be about, getting rich, more about education and access and making sure we know the resources that are available for us.
Right. No, it's exciting times.
Yes. Well, I feel like, we're wrapping up consensus. Tomorrow is the last day. I know we both have a few sessions we're trying to get to, but, it's been great to connect with the audience, share a bit about our experience at consensus and, give them a little teaser.
Yeah. No, yeah. I'm excited to see what happens in the next couple of days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you to the audience for tuning in. And we're so excited that we could actually offer this live broadcast from Consensus in Austin. We hope to be able to do it at future conferences.
Yes. So be sure to check out our inaugural episodes at butterscotch.media. And thank you again to our Butterscotch kings and queens out there for joining the conversation.
Thank you, everyone.
Adios. Bye.